Stop right there. If you're about to change your Mazda's transmission fluid, you need to watch this entire video first, because what I'm about to tell you could save your transmission or destroy it. Here's the thing. Transmission fluid changes seem simple, right? Drain the old stuff, pour in new fluid, done. But with Mazdas, especially modern Skyactiv models, it's not that straightforward. Do it wrong, and you could turn a perfectly good transmission into a slipping, shuddering mess that needs a $4,000 replacement. I've seen it happen more times than I can count. People follow bad advice from forums, or they let a quick lube shop talk them into a service they don't need, and suddenly their smooth shifting Mazda drives like a truck with a bad clutch. Today, I'm breaking down everything you need to know about Mazda transmission fluid, when to change it, when not to change it, the right way to do it, and the deadly mistakes that can ruin your transmission overnight. This isn't just another maintenance video. This is information that could literally save you thousands of dollars. So pay close attention, because by the end, you'll know more about transmission fluid than most mechanics. Let's dive in. The biggest mistake: changing fluid too early. Here's where most people mess up right from the start. They think changing transmission fluid early is always a good thing. More maintenance equals better protection, right? Wrong. With Mazda transmissions, changing the fluid too early or too often can actually cause problems. Here's why. Your transmission has clutch packs inside. As these clutches wear in during normal use, they create tiny metal particles that float in the fluid. Sounds bad, right? But here's the thing. A small amount of these particles actually helps the clutches grip better. It's part of the break-in process. When you change the fluid too early, especially in the first 30,000 miles, you remove those particles before the clutches have fully seated. The result? Your clutches might start slipping because they've lost that extra friction material. I've seen brand new Mazdas with less than 20,000 miles develop shifting problems after an early preventative transmission service. The owner thought they were being proactive. Instead, they created a problem that didn't exist. So when should you actually change it? For most Mazdas with automatic transmissions, the sweet spot is around 60,000 miles. That's when you've got enough wear to justify fresh fluid, but not so much that you're risking damage. Some Mazda manuals say 80,000 miles for highway driving. That's fine too, but don't rush it. Your transmission was designed with a specific break-in period in mind. Let it do its thing. The deadly flush versus the safe drain and fill. Alright, let's talk about the biggest debate in transmission maintenance: flush or drain and fill. This is where shops make their money and where transmissions get destroyed. A transmission flush sounds great on paper. They hook up a machine, force high-pressure fluid through your transmission, and claim to remove 100% of the old fluid. Clean slate, right? Here's the problem. That high pressure doesn't just remove fluid, it dislodges debris. All those tiny particles that were sitting harmlessly in corners and crevices, now they're floating through your transmission, heading straight for narrow passages, solenoids, and valve bodies. Suddenly, you've got clogs, pressure issues, shifting problems. I've seen perfectly good transmissions start acting up within days of a flush. And here's what makes it worse. The debris that gets dislodged is often from years of normal wear. It wasn't causing problems where it was. But once it moves, game over. Mazda specifically recommends against full flushes. They want you to do a simple drain and fill. Here's how a drain and fill works. You remove the drain plug and let gravity drain out about 40% of the old fluid. You refill with fresh Mazda spec fluid. Drive for a bit. Let the new fluid mix with the old. That's it. You're removing enough old fluid to refresh the system, but you're not creating a shock to the transmission. The remaining old fluid helps cushion the transition. And here's the bonus. A drain and fill is way cheaper. We're talking $100 to $150 instead of $250 to $350 for a flush. So why do shops push flushes so hard? Because they make more money. Simple as that. Don't fall for it. Stick with the drain and fill method that Mazda recommends. Your transmission will thank you. If you're enjoying this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. This helps me bring you more honest car advice for my Mazda guys. The fluid specification that could destroy your transmission. Let's talk about the most critical part of this entire process, using the correct fluid. I cannot stress this enough. If you use the wrong transmission fluid in your Mazda, you will cause damage. Not might, will. For most modern Mazda automatics, you need Mazda ATF-FC or ATF-MV fluid. For Skyactiv transmissions, it's usually Mazda ATF-FC. For older models, check your owner's manual. Some use different specs. Now, here's where people get into trouble. They go to a quick-lube shop or a general mechanic and the guy says, "Oh, we've got universal ATF. It works in everything." No, it doesn't. Universal ATF is formulated to meet the bare minimum specs for a wide range of transmissions. But Mazda transmissions, especially Skyactiv, have specific requirements for friction modifiers, viscosity, and additive packages. Use the wrong fluid, and you'll get harsh shifts, slipping, shuddering, and premature wear. I've seen Mazdas with less than 50,000 miles need transmission rebuilds because someone used the wrong fluid. And here's the worst part. This damage might not show up immediately. It could take 5,000 or 10,000 miles before you notice problems. By then, the damage is done, and you've got a major repair bill staring at you. So what should you do? Buy genuine Mazda ATF from the dealer. Yes, it's more expensive. A quart of Mazda fluid might cost $15 to $20 versus $8 for universal fluid. But we're talking about a transmission that costs $4,000 to replace. Spending an extra $40 on the right fluid is the cheapest insurance you can buy. Don't gamble with your transmission. Use the correct Mazda spec fluid every single time. The high mileage trap you need to avoid. Here's a scenario I see all the time, and it breaks my heart. Someone buys a used Mazda with 100,000 miles. The transmission shifts fine, no problems at all, but they're proactive, so they decide to change the transmission fluid just to be safe. They get it done, and within a week, the transmission starts slipping, shifting rough, or throwing codes. What happened? The transmission was surviving on old, thick fluid that was filling in worn clearances. The old fluid had additives that had broken down into compounds that were actually helping seal worn parts. When you dump in fresh, thin fluid, those clearances open up. Suddenly, you've got pressure loss, slipping clutches, and a transmission that's on its way out. This is called stirring up a hornet's nest. If you've got a high-mileage Mazda, 120,000 miles or more, and the transmission fluid has never been changed, you need to be very careful. Here's my advice. If the transmission is shifting perfectly and you have no symptoms, leave it alone. Don't touch it. If you absolutely must change it, do a partial drain and fill. Only remove 2 or 3 quarts, not the full amount. This dilutes the old fluid without shocking the system. Monitor it closely after the change. If you start noticing any issues, document them immediately. I know this goes against conventional wisdom. Everyone says change your fluids regularly, but with high-mileage transmissions, sometimes the best maintenance is no maintenance. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. The temperature trick that saves your transmission. Here's something most DIers and even some mechanics don't know. Transmission fluid level must be checked at the correct temperature. Get this wrong, and you could overfill or underfill your transmission. Both are bad. Mazda transmissions are designed to be checked at a specific fluid temperature, usually between 95 degrees Fahrenheit and 113 degrees Fahrenheit depending on the model. Too cold, and the fluid hasn't expanded yet. The level looks low, so you add more. Then when it warms up, you're overfilled. Overfilled transmissions foam the fluid, reducing its ability to lubricate and cool. You'll get slipping, overheating, and damage. Too hot, and the fluid has expanded too much. The level looks high, so you think you're good. But when it cools down, you're actually low on fluid. Low fluid means poor lubrication, overheating, and expensive repairs. So how do you check it correctly? Most Mazdas don't have a transmission dipstick anymore. You need to check it from underneath while the car is running. Here's the process. Drive the car for about 10 minutes to warm up the transmission. Park on level ground and keep the engine running. Shift through all the gears, pausing in each one for a few seconds. Then put it in park. Get under the car and locate the transmission fill plug. Remove the plug. If fluid drips out, you're at the correct level. If nothing comes out, you need to add fluid. Some models have a specific temperature range requirement. You might need a scan tool to monitor transmission fluid temp on the dashboard. This is why I always recommend having a professional do transmission fluid changes. They have the tools and knowledge to get it right. But if you're doing it yourself, invest in a good infrared thermometer and take your time. Getting the level right is just as important as using the correct fluid. The one-time exception, the first service. Here's the one situation where I actually recommend changing transmission fluid early, the very first service. Around 30,000 miles, especially if you bought your Mazda new, consider doing one early drain and fill. Why? Because during the break-in period, the transmission generates more metal particles than it will for the rest of its life. Gears meshing for the first time, clutches seating, everything settling in. Getting those initial break-in particles out at 30,000 miles can actually extend the life of your transmission. After that first early change, go back to the normal 60,000 mile interval. Think of it like this. The first change removes the birth defects. Every change after that is just regular maintenance. But here's the key. Only do this if your transmission is shifting perfectly. If it's smooth, quiet, and problem-free, an early first service is fine. If you're already having issues, don't touch it. Take it to a Mazda specialist and let them diagnose the problem first. What about CVT transmissions? If you've got a Mazda with a CVT or continuously variable transmission, everything I've said still applies, but with a few extra cautions. CVTs are even more sensitive to fluid type than regular automatics. Mazda CVTs require Mazda CVTF or specific CVT-compatible fluid. Never ever use regular ATF in a CVT. The service interval is similar, around 60,000 to 80,000 miles, but check your specific manual. And here's the big one. CVTs absolutely cannot handle flushes. The high pressure can damage the belt or chain inside. Always do a simple drain and fill on a CVT. No exceptions. If a shop tells you your CVT needs a flush, walk out. They don't know what they're talking about, and they're about to destroy your transmission. The symptoms that mean you're already too late. Let's talk about the warning signs that your transmission is already in trouble. If you're experiencing any of these, changing the fluid might not help. It might even make things worse. Slipping. The engine revs, but the car doesn't accelerate as expected. Hard or delayed shifts. There's a noticeable thump or pause when changing gears. Shuddering. The car vibrates or shakes during acceleration or shifting. Whining or grinding noises. Any unusual sounds from the transmission area. Burning smell. Transmission fluid that's overheating has a distinct burnt odor. Check engine light with transmission codes. Your car is telling you something's wrong. If you're experiencing any of these symptoms, don't just change the fluid and hope for the best. Take it to a Mazda specialist for diagnosis first. Sometimes fresh fluid can temporarily mask a problem, making it seem better for a few hundred miles. But the underlying issue is still there, and it'll come back worse. Get it properly diagnosed, understand what's wrong, and then decide on the best course of action. The bottom line, when to change, when to walk away. Alright, let's wrap this up with a clear game plan. Change your Mazda transmission fluid if you're at or near 60,000 miles and the transmission shifts perfectly. You're doing the first service at 30,000 miles as a precautionary measure. Your owner's manual specifically recommends it at your current mileage. You use your Mazda for towing or severe driving conditions regularly. Don't change your transmission fluid if your transmission is already showing symptoms of problems. Diagnose first, then decide. Your high-mileage Mazda, 120,000 plus, has never had it changed and shifts fine. Leave it alone. A shop is pushing a flush instead of a drain and fill. Walk away. They can't tell you what specific fluid they're using. If it's not Mazda spec, don't do it. And never ever let a quick lube shop touch your transmission. Use universal or works in all cars transmission fluid. Do a high-pressure flush on any Mazda, especially a CVT. Change fluid just because someone tells you it looks dark. That's normal. Your Mazda's transmission is built to last 200,000 miles or more with proper care. But proper care doesn't mean constant intervention. Sometimes it means knowing when to leave well enough alone. Follow Mazda's recommendations, use the right fluid, do it the right way, and your transmission will outlast the rest of the car. Ignore this advice and you could be shopping for a new transmission before you hit 100,000 miles. The choice is yours. If you found these tips helpful, be sure to watch this next video as we're sharing insider tips to help you cut repair costs and keep your car running like new.